Let me play this this clip from Dr. Brian Williams. He's a surgeon who was operating on dying Dallas.
I think he was the
officers.
presiding surgeon.
Okay. And it's pretty amazing. It's also just sort of amazing to hear someone be this frank about this. I mean, because look, you have this circumstance where, and the irony is that Dallas has made great strides in its policing. And they went from, like, they dropped the number of shootings there. They've just made great strides. And so some lunatic, and, you know, as soon as you heard about this, you assumed, like, you know, ex-military, right? I mean, and every time I hear of situations like that, Martin Luther King had said something to the effect of, like, every bomb that we drop in Vietnam explodes in the cities in this country. And there was a certain inevitability when you send people, these many people, into a situation like Afghanistan and Iraq, that people are going to come back. There's going to be a certain percentage who come back with real problems. We saw this with the D.C. sniper, I think it was, too. But here is this guy, Brian Williams, talking about the difficulty. Obviously, he wants to treat these police officers who are just there, basically, you know, dealing with these peaceful protests. But also, he has these feelings as a black man about the police because he has a lived experience which suggests being black and dealing with police officers is a problem in this country, which is true.
This experience has been very personal for me and a turning point in my life. There was the added dynamic of officers being shot. We routinely care for multiple gunshot victims. But the preceding days of more black men dying at the hands of police officers affected me. I think the reasons are obvious. I fit that demographic of individuals. But I abhor what has been done to these officers and agree with their families. I understand the anger and the frustration and distrust of law enforcement, but they are not the problem. The problem is the lack of open discussions about the impact of race relations in this country. And I think about it every day, that I was unable to save those cops when they came here that night. It weighs on my mind constantly. This killing, it has to stop. Black men dying and being forgotten, people retaliating against the people that are sworn to defend us. We have to come together and end all this. When I see police officers eating at a restaurant, I pick up their tab. I even, one time a year or two ago, I bought one of the Dallas PD officers some ice cream when I was out with my daughter getting ice cream. I want my daughter to see me interacting with police that way so she doesn't grow up with the same burden that I carry when it comes to interacting with law enforcement. And I want the Dallas police to also see me, a black man, and understand that I support you, I will defend you, and I will care for you. That doesn't mean that I do not fear you. That doesn't mean that if you approach me, I will not immediately have a visceral reaction and start worrying for my personal safety. But I will control that the best I can and not let that impact how I deal with law enforcement.
I mean, that is, that's an amazing statement. Just the myriad of mixed emotions and feelings that guy has. Really, I mean, I think that captures a lot of the sort of the dynamic. And here's a guy too, you know, you imagine as a surgeon who is, you know, theoretically less subject to police presence in the same way. I mean, part of the reason why he fears police officers is he probably has had experiences, despite the fact that he may live, and maybe because of the fact that he may live in a nicer neighborhood, or drive a nicer car because he's a surgeon. I mean, it's amazing.
I just have to say, like, I think this is definitely one of those issues where obviously some of it's socioeconomic, but it does not matter how much
that's
affluence you have, just what you're saying. I mean,
but
yeah.
if you are, I can tell you that if you are a 17-year-old black kid growing up in, just to put it in New York City terms, Manhattan terms, in the West Village versus the Bronx, your interactions with police
the whole
officers,
neighborhood is just more policed, period.
Exactly. Yeah. But nevertheless, you're still going to have a certain amount of stories. I mean, I think, you know, it's much harder for a guy who is working a day job to, I think, and being harassed on a regular basis by the police, to have that level of like sort of ambiguity with the relationship with the cops, where we can reach out. I mean, look, it's just easier if you have more money and you're going to, you're in a neighborhood that is, it's just easier for you to sort of be able to do that outreach, even if you have those same fears.
You know, what's funny though is like the new Dope Boys came out today, and we talked about this. And Phil's like, through his whole, worked at Goldman Sachs, went to Duke and got an MBA. He's like, hostile, but he's like, I do not. It would take like a home invasion in my apartment to voluntarily initiate an interaction with a police officer.
Right. And
traveling like from North Carolina back to New York, conversations like, don't go to this town in Virginia at a certain time of night. This is a place to avoid as a driver. And he's, more on that scale, like more similar to that surgeon,
right,
than not,
right,
and still held that fear,
All right, we're going to take Hello, you. I'm Sam Seder. Looking for smart progressive talk that is occasionally amusing? Well, subscribe to our YouTube feed. Subscribe to our podcast. Like us on Facebook. And just generally enjoy us.